thought I would, you know, um, do a stream. I'm about to head out to the gym for my late night workout. Feeling a little bit better. Was having some back spasms, the past week, but back then healed up. So, at the end of the day, this means one thing. Basically, I'm getting at a point in my life or, my age that I can't carry the weight anymore. So, with that being said, as I told you before, I was going to change my diet and I'm changing my diet. So, about to go do some running, and get in the pool. No weights right now, no weights. But nevertheless, let's talk about this fight with Virgil Ortiz, this controversial fight. And once again, content creators a few years ago were saying they're different from mainstream media, but they're starting to look basically the same. Um, they're basically trying to do the shock jock stuff and uh, fake scenarios, you know, basically putting out a lot of garbage. Let's just keep it a buck. They're just on that same path that Skip Bayless used to do. So now they're basically bringing the Skip Bayless mentality to um, social media and YouTube media and Instagram media, putting stuff that's not necessarily factual, but they're doing it to get views. Because at the end of the day, this is why they called influencers, because they can influence you to have the opinion of them. But anybody with common sense that watched the Terrence Crawford fight last week could clearly see that Terrence Crawford won that fight. But you got people saying that Terrence Crawford lost that fight when he clearly outboxed Madrigal. Clearly. Wasn't even without a shadow of a doubt, Terrence Crawford won that fight. And after watching the fight a third time, Terrence Crawford won that fight. Clearly won that fight 8 rounds to 4. You know, that's worst case scenario. Mike can make an argument that he won 9-3. But here it is. You have Virgil Ortiz, who was dropped twice and he was knocked down twice legitimately. One of them was like a late reaction knockdown because he got hit and he had a late reaction. And then you had the knockdown in the first round where equilibrium got, caused him to take a quick fall. He wasn't hurt and he got back up. But if you watch that fight, Virgil Ortiz was getting touched up. He got hit far more than Terrence Crawford did. But yet you have people saying that Virgil Ortiz won the fight and Terrence Crawford, who didn't who didn't remotely touch the ground, didn't remotely get hurt like Virgil Ortiz did throughout the fight. They saying that Terrence Crawford lost, but Virgil Ortiz won. Or that it should, like, for real, man. This is why I don't pay attention to these people. It's just a lot of lip service and fraudulent word salad. You know, but I don't call myself an influencer. I just state what I saw. Here we go. You about to get blocked just on GP. Ah, yeah, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that. So, don't come on my channel playing. I have zero tolerance for that. Don't come on here saying hi and all that kind of stuff. Stop it. Okay. We're not doing that. I'm gonna get rid of you real quick. So just watching the Virgil Ortiz fight, I've seen highlights from it. And then my own observation, And like I said before, I want people to understand something. This isn't an attack on Virgil Ortiz, neither. This isn't an attack on him. It has nothing to do with him being Mexican, has nothing to do with none of that. But I thought that the other guy, you know, Buhachuk did enough to get the victory because he knocked down Virgil Ortiz twice. He did more damage to Virgil Ortiz. I think all that should come into play when it comes to scoring fights, because obviously his punches did more damage than there should be. I don't know. Maybe they need to set the criteria, and maybe they need to come out with a flat out criteria on how to judge a fight. That's what I do. Me myself, when I watch a fight, I put everything together. I analyze everything. I go by punch output. I go by effective aggression. Sometimes I go by who's executing his game plan better. I take into account whose punches do more damage, how one fighter looks after the fight versus another. You have to take all that into account when scoring the fight. Because if you look at Virgil Ortiz versus Buhachuk, it looks like Virgil Ortiz lost that fight. Both men had to be taken to the hospital. I hope both men are okay, because at the end of the day, boxing is a very dangerous sport. These dudes are putting their lives on the line. But what was the end results? What was my final analysis after seeing this fight? And I'm going to talk about that later on. But I want to talk about, once again, content creators constantly spewing out garbage, spewing out lies. Because that's what they're doing. And then you have the Terrence Crawford haters, that's still upset. So they'll put a new they'll put a new narrative out. They'll put another angle out to try to basically justify their slander of Terrence Crawford. Listen, at the end of the day, you are entitled to your opinion. Everybody is. But when you constantly have a pattern, and when you constantly have basically the same basically when you basically had the same format on all of your videos, then you're a narrative pusher. One thing about me, people, when they tap into my channel, they see I have a different aspect about a lot of different things, no matter whether it's sports, whether it's entertainment, whether it's politics. People have never said that I was predictable, and which I like that. I like the fact that I've never been told that I'm predictable. One thing about me, I'm not a interviewer, as Shannon Sharp would say. I'm a conversationist. I like to have conversation. I like to talk as if, we're just, congregating, chopping it up. So, it's a difference between being an interviewer and being a conversationalist. Conversationalist is when you just basically chopping it up, going back and forth. That's why a lot of people feel comfortable when they meet me talking to me, because that's what I do. I don't want to make, because sometimes an interview can sometimes turn into interrogation, or as Charles Barkley would say, interrogation. So I don't want to interrogate nobody. So that's why I call myself a conversationalist versus being an interviewer. Big difference. Shout out to Shannon Sharp. So shout out to Shannon Sharp for breaking that down. So, once again, with that being said, these dudes on here are just laughable. They really are. They're laughable. The people in the comment section, y'all are laughable too. Because you're sitting up here trying to tell me that Terrence Crawford lost, but Virgil Ortiz won. You had one dude on on one channel say that those knockdowns were fake. And they like, dude, those were clear knockdowns, both of them. One of them was more of a late reaction knockdown, and then the other one was clearly a knockdown where dude hit Virgil Ortiz over the top, and Virgil Ortiz went down. Yeah, he wasn't hurt, but he got knocked down. It is what it is. And Bud didn't even touch the ground. Bud didn't even touch the ground, but they saying that Bud lost that fight. What happened? And now you see they didn't threw out the whole notion of, well, the challenger, he got to take it from the champ. So now all of a sudden, Virgil Ortiz did exactly what. So Virgil Ortiz did the exact opposite, which is not take it, but yet they're saying he won. But then Terrence Crawford basically executed his game plan better than Matchwoff did. And they're saying Terrence Crawford lost when basically the champ was sitting up there spending too much time trying to counter. He was spending too much time trying to counter and trying to fade instead of bringing the fight to Terrence Crawford. You just have to keep it a buck. But hey, that's people don't do that. Nobody keeps it a buck anymore. So that's why sometimes you shouldn't pay attention to these content creators. But after watching last night's fight and then watching Terrence Crawford, yeah, I'm more than convinced that Terrence Crawford won that fight. I don't even see how you can sit up with a straight face and try to say that Virgil Ortiz clearly won that fight. Basically, the new mentality now with content creators and these so-called boxing channels is throw something at the wall, and particularly horse shit, and see does it stick, or just blatantly say something outlandish. But if you can sound convincing as if you know what you're talking about, then people will fall in line, and then they will be influenced by what you're saying. Now listen, if you thought the Terrence Crawford fight was close, fine. But calling it a robbery, stop it. Stop it. But then here's the thing. Okay. And I'm the type of guy that keep it 100. Okay, cool. The Terrence Crawford fight was on the same line of Lomachenko versus Devin Haney. But then you'll have some people that'll say that Devin Haney won that fight, but then Terrence Crawford pretty much had the same exact kind of fight. But then you have Terrence Crawford haters saying that he lost. But then you got people that's cool with Team Haney saying that he won because they're cool with Devin Haney. Now I'm gonna say this again. Yeah, Bill is my brother. And as a guy that was at Devin Haney Lomachenko, y'all know I covered that fight. I clearly thought that Devin Haney won that fight, and I explained how Devin Haney won that fight. See, the thing is, can you really explain how you thought Virgil Ortiz won that fight? Because at the end of the day, they were going toe to toe. It was easy for me to explain how Terrence Crawford won that fight. It was easy for me to explain how Devin Haney beat Lomachenko. But this just goes to show you how fake these dudes are. And I've been saying that they've been doing this for the longest. A lot of these dudes, they go by whether they got access to these dudes or whether these dudes give them interviews or whatever the case may be. Listen, I've said this before. I don't give two fucks about whether I get an interview with Terrence Crawford or not. I'm not finna be sitting up here always worried about who Terrence Crawford is doing interviews with and who he's not doing interviews with, and whether he's uh combative with the media or not. Terrence Crawford is a brilliant fighter. He's an excellent fighter, and he's gonna be one of the greatest fighters that ever lived when his career is all said and done. Despite the fact that you have people that are constantly tearing him down, and particularly that look like him. Some people just cannot get over the fact how easily he whooped Errol Spence's ass, and they're not man or woman enough to say it. And as I said before, this is why I fell out with certain people, because they were trying to push this narrative. They were trying to tell me who I can support and who I can't support, or who I should show more support towards. And then a lot of times these dudes were hypocrites and then they went too far as trying to put out personal information about people. But then it's a question about whether they were practicing what they were preaching. So I'm just saying. Hey, what's up, Trick? Oh, Trick, I'm sorry, man. I missed your call, bro. I'm sorry I missed your call. I was like in the middle of something. So, I'll definitely hit you up later. I'll definitely hit you up later on. Shout out to my guy, Trick Nolte. That's my guy out of the Houston area, out of Texas. That's my guy. That's my brother. Um, but yeah, but yeah. Um, that's the difference between me and other people. A lot of people just cannot get over that ass whooping. So they feel like they have to bash Terrence Crawford no matter what. And a lot of these dudes, they just don't, they just laughable at times. They get too emotionally invested. And a lot of these dudes um, put too much stock in Errol Spence. And you had dudes trying to convert you and sitting up there. And I just cannot get over it. Can't get over that. You had people really try. You really had a bunch of goofy ass, overgrown Lewis Gossip Jr. looking niggas trying to like think they can intimidate you. It's like that was just hilarious. And then you didn't told the dude, well, you know what I'm saying? Bring it. Let's get it. But but I'll put it to you this way: opportunity going to present itself real soon. Opportunity going to present itself real. But are you prepared? Are you prepared when you get beat the fuck up? When you do, when you get beat the fuck up, are you prepared? Are you going to be able to handle that? So, like I said before, if, you know, opportunity going to present itself, that's all I'm going to say. And we going to see. And I promise you, I'll be ready. I'll be more than ready. But yeah, so that's what a lot of these guys do. Um, it's just laughable to see. And the funny part about it is Virgil Ortiz is Virgil, if Virgil Ortiz is from Texas, ironic, and he's from that area. He's from that area. So you can't. But yeah, I like I said, I don't see too many videos getting made, basically slandering and going in on Virgil Ortiz, saying how he got a gift decision. Listen, at the end of the day, whether you are subscribed to certain channels or not, there's going to be what you would call a media feed. There's going to be a whole bunch of videos that going to be talking about a particular subject. I'll talk about boxing a lot. And even though there are certain channels I'm not subscribed to, you will see whether they put out certain content. You will see where they put out a video breaking down certain fights. But now I don't see people talking about that Virgil Ortiz got a gift decision, but you got some of these idiots talking about that Terrence Crawford got a gift decision. I mean, just laughable. But keep the bullshit coming. You guys show how fake you are, and I just enjoy it because it's funny to me. I mean, it's very funny. But I'm giving people a chance. I need people to explain to me. Nah, because what happened was these dudes for going into that fight, they put so much stock into that fight, backing up Errol Spence. To be honest with you, a lot of people really didn't want the fight to happen. You know what it was? They just wanted to put out the narrative that Terrence Crawford was preventing that fight from happening. But we all know that Al Heyman was the one for years that basically prolonged the fight. I'm gonna be honest with you. Errol Spence would have had a better chance of beating Terrence Crawford had they had the fight in you know 2019 versus waiting waiting an additional 4 years for the fight to happen. I just think that they screwed up and they let Terrence Crawford get set in and get way too comfortable at 147. That was their best chance to try to get the fight did right away. But Errol Spence was talking this. He gonna take the easy route. He gonna do this. He gonna collect all the belts and all this kind of stuff. Well, here's the thing. You already had it set because a lot of those dudes were PBC fighters. You should have tried to get Terrence Crawford first and then go the quote unquote easy route. Well, you went the easy route to basically a epic ass whooping. When going the easy route goes wrong, you listen to Al Heyman. And by the way, I don't like what Al Heyman them and the PBC is doing to Steve Fulton. And I'm gonna talk about that, and I'm also gonna talk about that later on today. Well, Errol Spence was doing some heavy. Errol Spence was doing some heavy lifting, all right, because he was getting lifted off his feet by Terrence Crawford. He got lifted off his feet 3 times. He got lifted off his feet 3 times, or should I say 3 times? So, like I said before, um, Errol Spence is paying a steep price as well. Errol Spence is, from what I've been told, is not in fight shape. And when I saw Errol Spence in March, he clearly looked like he wasn't in fight shape. Errol Spence have issues from what I see controlling his weight, keeping his weight down because he's a naturally big dude. You know, and all that's going on is Fedor just basically buying time. He's doing what a lot of the PBC fighters do, is hold belts hostage. And at the end of the day, the PBC was supposed to be like this top tier brand of top tier boxers, but the problem is that didn't seem to be true because every time the PBC fighters, with the exception of Tank, you know, uh, fought in close cross promotional fights, they would lose. And the PBC had a terrible record in head to head matchups with top rank. The PBC had a losing record. This is fact. They had a losing record when they were not fighting, on the PBC banner, fighting under the PBC banner when it wasn't PBC fighters versus PBC fighters. When it was PBC fighters versus, whether it was Matchroom, whether it was Top Rank, whether it was another promotional company, they were getting their asses handed to them. They were losing. So this is the real reason why Al Heyman was reluctant to make certain fights. This is why he didn't want to give Terrence Crawford Danny Garcia. This is why he waited till Sean Porter was ready to call it a day. This is why he kept telling Errol Spence, don't fight Terrence Crawford. He tried to fight all those dudes. And Al Heyman didn't want to make the fights. So tell me that I'm lying. Yeah, I saw that. That was very that was childish. I never blocked anybody going into that fight who said they thought Errol Spence was going to win that fight. I didn't say, "Oh man, you're blocked because you don't think." I had an issue with people getting mad because I was trying to be neutral and basically I was cool with Terrence Crawford's team. But for some reason, people got attitudes. And to me, that's just not manly. I never blocked anybody. I never said, man, you can't come on my channel. But you sure had certain people that was saying they blocking you. And then, you know, and when the fight happened, they tried to downplay what Terrence Crawford did, make excuses because, there were a lot of dudes that was hurt by this. And, you had a lot of clowns on here every time, leading up to the Errol Spence fight. They were sitting up here saying that Terrence Crawford wasn't fighting nobody. But then Terrence Crawford is not fighting nobody. But then these PBC fighters, they only fight each other for the most part. And then when they fight outside the PBC banner, they get whooped on. But the PBC, the so-called PBC, was supposed it had the best fighters. Well, how you have the best fighters when they have a losing record in cross-promotional fights? Make that make sense. See how I'm destroying these dudes? You guys are that are listening to my channel, you guys are easy to destroy in debates, and I would have destroyed you in debates with ease. All you clowns that were sitting up here saying that Terrence Crawford need to fight this dude, he need to fight. And then when he fought those dudes and beat them, it was an excuse. It was an excuse when he fought Kell Brook. It was an excuse when he fought Sean Porter. Danny Garcia all of a sudden is talking about, well, he want to fight Terrence Crawford if he get past Lara. For what? Why would Terrence Crawford entertain the thought of fighting you? You do nothing for Terrence Crawford now. When the fight made the most sense, what were you saying? You were saying call Al Heyman. Better call Tyrone or whatever the case. Call Al. And like I said before, all you Al Heyman supporters, you need to shut the fuck up too. Because don't give me this stuff about why are we tearing down Al Heyman. Well, here's the thing about Al Heyman. Al Heyman tore down his own fighters, and particularly the black fighters. He disrespected his own black fighters when he kept putting them on the back burner and putting those Mexican fighters and basically making them sacrificial lambs for Tank Davis, basically to build up his reputation and build up his stature. At the end of the day, fact is fact. Well, Gary Russell Jr. asked for certain fight. Gary Russell Jr. asked for a fight with Tank. Constantly was trying to get a fight with Tank. Well, Al wouldn't let it happen. Gary Russell Jr. was constantly trying to get fights with Leo Santa Cruz. Well, guess who wouldn't let it happen? Al. Al Heyman does not respect any media whatsoever. refuses to make himself available, always was standoffish towards the media, too good to talk to the media, name is constantly out there, and he don't even want to talk to us. Nobody is saying that Al Heyman should have always been talking to the media, but and you just got to keep it 100. If you sit up here and your name is always in the scheme of things, in the mix or in the middle of everything, but then you can't make yourself available to talk to the media, but every time you look around, you're hearing a person's name involved in something, it comes across as cowardly. And I just thought to a certain degree Al Heyman was being cowardly. So why all of a sudden Al Heyman is too good to talk to anybody? You involved in boxing and the few fights that you did attend. And then another thing that's weird about Al Heyman is this manager slash advisor, but here's the thing. A lot of these people were saying that they never met Al Heyman, saying that they either talk to him on the phone or they do a conference call with him and stuff like that, but they never met the man in person, and I find that weird. So if Al Heyman is getting criticized by in particularly black media, and then you guys had the audacity to try to call us coons who talk about Al Heyman, this is why I know that you guys are far and beyond clueless of what you talking about. And then that word coon is used too much too. It's starting to lose its impact. Just because you have a disagreement about certain things doesn't mean that you're cooning. There's a difference between cooning and being a coon. Black people, two black men can have a disagreement about something without one being called a coon. So I'm just keeping it a buck, because at the end of the day, you can make an argument that Al Heyman is the real coon, and he's always been the real coon. But then you guys try to call anybody that criticizes and has legitimate criticism of Al Heyman a coon. So stop it. That's just real talk. You can't tell me that I'm lying because I know what I'm talking about. Like I said, I find that strange. This dude is your manager slash advisor, but you've never met him face to face. Something ain't right about that. And then this dude don't make himself available to the media. Doesn't really have any contact information. Uh, doesn't really have social media. But then this dude name is always popping up, and this is why Al Heyman made a lot of enemies. He made enemies. You know, um, he burnt a lot of bridges in the music industry, and he's burnt bridges in boxing. This is just factual. Not trying to tear the man down. Everything that I'm saying is truthful. It's fact. I think Al Heyman could have helped himself, making himself occasionally available to the media. But Al Heyman doesn't do interviews, but everybody else, and that's the problem. Everybody else makes himself available to the media, whether you like him or not, whether you like Eddie Hearn or not. He makes himself available to the media. Well, Eddie Hearn loves talking to the media. Bob Arum makes himself available to the media. Oscar De La Hoya makes himself available to the media. Frank Warren, when you could catch him, he makes himself available to the media. The guy that runs Samson Boxing, he makes himself available to the media. Now, the other dude, he doesn't talk very much. The dude that the tall white guy, I forgot what his name is. I think his name is Tom Brown or something. But, but everybody else, makes himself available to the media, the trainers, the trainers, most of the promoters. But Al Heyman ain't nowhere to be found. So once again, Al Heyman did this to himself. If people started to turn on Al Heyman did it to himself. And that's just the bottom line. Nobody can tell me that I'm lying. So there you have it. But nevertheless, I just wanted to put out these double standards that's now going on and these fake narratives that's being pushed. You could I say Virgil Ortiz won that fight and then say Terrence Crawford lost his fight. You can't sit up there and say a guy that got dropped twice and was and got hit and hurt throughout the fight, won his fight, but Terrence Crawford got a gift decision. Not making any kind of sense. You're showing your hand. You showing who you really are as a person. And if you a content creator, you just showing that you on some shock jock shit. But anyway, Sport Town, I'm out.